think it was probably Andover Concrete covering most of it. But it's bad. It's dangerous. It'll make his car hot. You know.
We have with many of the others. Gas tax. The city generally receives approximately $300,000 annually in gas tax revenue. The current year-to-date collections are $216,200 compared to $226,600 for the same time period last year, a reduction of approximately $10,000. The first two distributions were higher than last year's, but the third distribution was quite a bit lower than last year's. I suspect we'll fall short of the $290,000 we budgeted. Interest income is not a pretty story. In 2019, the city received interest income totaling $246,270. My projection for 2020 is only $35,500. As Sean previously reported to you, the interest rate on the city's KMIP account dropped from 1.25% in January to 0.001% by the end of March. It tripled to 0.003% on July 7th, and then to 0.007% on October 1st. The $14.4 million that we currently have in the KMIP account is currently earning only $2.76, $2.76, I can't say that, $2.76 per day, or $83 a month. In January, we were earning $455 per day. Transit guest tax. In 2018 and 2019, the city received transit guest tax revenue of $235,700 and $259,200 respectively. The current year-to-date collections are $166,800, which is $4,200 less than the same time period last year. That doesn't seem too bad until you compare each of the three distributions from last year to this year. The first two distributions of 2020 were quite high compared to last year's. That cushioned the blow of a very large reduction of $26,600 in the third 2020 distribution compared to 2019's third distribution. Businesses may remit transit guest tax collections to the state monthly, quarterly, or annually, and the state then remits the revenue to cities quarterly. So it's difficult to know just how much of a delay there has been locally in these collections to judge if we can expect the fourth distribution to be substantially lower than last year's too. However, I believe it's fairly unlikely that our fourth quarter distribution will be the $68,000 needed in order to meet the 2020 budget of $235,000. Liquor tax. Interestingly, despite what is being said in the news about liquor tax sales being up, our year-to-date collections are down $9,500 from this time last year. The revenues are split equally amongst three funds: the general fund, the special alcohol parks and rec fund, and the special alcohol police fund. We budgeted conservatively at $13,700 in each of those three funds, and to date we've received $12,800 in each of them. So it's likely the final distribution will bring collections to meet or exceed the budgeted amounts. Utility fees. As you're aware, the city was not disconnecting water service for non-payment during the months of April, May, and June, nor were we assessing penalties. That caused a reduction in the revenues related to penalties and turn-off fees. Through the end of September this year, we billed only $31,380 in late fees compared to $47,850 for the same time period last year. We billed only $21,670 in turn-off fees compared to $33,210 last year. That's a total shortage of $28,000 for those two fees. Once it was determined turn-offs would be implemented again in July, admin staff worked very diligently in calling customers, sometimes numerous times, asking them to please make some type of payment to avoid disconnection of services and to set up contracts for repayment. There were 64 turn-offs for non-payment in July, which is not outside the normal range. In August, there were 74, which is higher than the normal range. Then September and October were back in normal again with 45 and 64 turnoffs respectively. At this point in time, there are only 2 outstanding payment contracts with citizens who are still attempting to catch up from that April to June timeframe. On a little different note, to give you a bit of a heads up, I've asked the department heads to project their 2020 expenditures through the end of the year in order to determine if any budget amendments will be needed. If an amendment is needed, our plan is to send the notice of hearing to the Ark Valley News by noon on December 8th for a December 10th publication. The public hearing and adoption would then be held during the December 22nd council meeting, which is the last meeting of the year. That's all I have for you, unless you have questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Dee? Randy?
Your 37 hours that you spent working on getting this gathered up, did you include that in your total request?
I at first thought admin costs of that nature were reimbursable, but I went back and searched the grant and I did not see that those types of costs are. Now, like the county distributing out funds where they're given to other entities, that appears to be something that they could include, but I did not find anywhere where we could include our costs to do a remittance. If you know something different, please let me know.
I'll get you an answer tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Dee. Next, we get to hear from our Senior Center Director.
Good evening, Council and Mr. Mayor. Just a little Senior Center update, what's going on. So the Senior Center remains open now from 8:30 to 4:30, our regular hours. And of course, face coverings are required, surfaces are disinfected and cleaned, and precautions are taken to ensure the health and safety of our seniors. Meals continue to be for takeout or delivered by Meals on Wheels only right now. Currently, attendance is minimal, but of course, that was to be expected, and it's not priority right now to have a bunch of people at the senior center. My priority was to make sure that the center was open for those that truly need our services. We continue to offer virtual programming for those seniors who are not able or do not feel comfortable coming into the center. Virtual programming is offered through Senior Learning Network, and we've also partnered with a couple of community partners to offer educational classes. Last week, we had our parking lot bingo. Just offer a little socially distanced fun for our senior community and beyond. And it was relatively successful. We had approximately 50 people there in our parking lot to win some prizes and have some fun. If you're interested, check out our Facebook page. There's some pictures of some of our participants from that day. Medicare open enrollment begins Thursday this week, and it runs through December 7th. This is a period where seniors can make some changes to their Medicare plans that they have, particularly their prescription drug coverage. And I am SHIC certified and can help them navigate those decisions and hopefully save some money when it comes to their prescription drug plan for 2021. If a senior is interested in having that assistance, all they need to do is give me a call or stop by the senior center. As far as what I'm kind of doing at the center, I am currently working on an application for 5310 funding to hopefully be used towards the purchase of a new senior center van next year. The application is due to WAMPO by the end of the year. I am also in the process of using some donation funds to purchase a new coffee and iced tea maker for the senior center. So I'll end on that happy note and answer any questions or concerns you may have.
Does anybody have any questions for Madison? And thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
That was it from staff reports, and the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a motion? George?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Ben?
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes 6-0. That brings us to item 4, which is discuss and consider a resolution approving the redemption and option to purchase related to the City of Park City, Kansas taxable industrial revenue bonds, Series 2016. Andrew?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm Andrew Kovar with Triplet Wolf and Garrettson in Wichita. We're counsel to A&B Group, who is the quote owner of the medical clinic right next door here. In 2016, the city issued industrial revenue bonds for A&B Group to purchase and rehab that facility. And as you know, under an IRB structure, the city actually owns title to the property and leases it to the IRB tenant, A&B in this case, for economic development purposes, basically. And in that IRB lease, the tenant has an option to purchase the property back if they redeem those bonds and get them paid off. In this case, A&B bought them all themselves, and they are in the process of selling that piece of property. And so in accordance with that, they have provided notice to the city that they are going to redeem that bond, and they're exercising their option to purchase the property back from the city. What you have in front of you then is a resolution approving that transaction. It's basically going to unwind the IRB, terminate the bond agreement, the IRB lease, transfer the property back with a deed, and get everything cleaned up, and the property will then, on October 30th, assuming everything goes to plan, will be transferred back to A&B Group, who will then be able to sell it to the prospective purchaser. Be happy to answer any questions you might have about that or the resolution or other documentation.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Is there a recommendation from the council? Brandy?
I move to approve Resolution 1057-2020, approving the redemption of the city's taxable industrial revenue bond series 2016, A&B Group LLC, and the sale of the project to A&B Group LLC.
Second.
Second by Tom. Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. Marla, would you call the roll?
John Lanier.
Aye.
George Glover.
Aye.
Ben Saucetta.
Aye.
Melvin Kerr.
Aye.
Tom Jones.
Aye.
George Capps. Brandy Bailey.
Aye.
Jim Schrader.
And that resolution passes 6-0.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
That brings us to item 5, which is discuss and consider approval of a bid from Don Lehner Construction for the Broadway sanitary sewer main. Sean?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In support of Project Starship and future economic development along Broadway, Council approved the design and engineering of the Broadway Sewer Extension Project, which is a 12-inch gravity main from 77th Street South to the lift station, and then an 8-inch force main from the lift station to a 12-inch gravity main at Prospect Street. That was approved back in May. 1 month later, Council approved the ordinance authorizing the improvements and delineating the project limits, as well as providing for the cost and/or reimbursements to be payable from the proceeds of general obligation bonds issued by the city. Last week, October 1st, I believe, or 10th? 1st. We had a bid opening, and it was conducted, and we had a total of 4 companies that submitted bids. They're all listed there: Don Lehner, Mies, Nowak, and Wildcat. The least expensive option bid submitted was Don Lehner Construction for the amount of $1,539,382.50. As previously indicated, this is an unbudgeted CIP, and staff recommends utilizing temporary financing subsequent issuance of general obligation bonds. At this time, if council has any questions regarding the bid tabulation itself, Kirk Miller is here to answer those type of questions. Staff recommends approval and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract.
Okay. Brandy?
I just have a question as to why the engineer's estimate is so much lower than the actual bids that came in. I mean, I see the price breakdown here, but lots of things are almost double.
Yeah, lots of things are double and lots of things are the other way also. I went through the bids too, and they were all over the place. And I think basically the contractors are saying, they're looking at it when they bid it, saying, this is where I think about where I need to be. So they start applying unit prices and then kind of come out pretty close to that. You can tell which ones were more interested than the others. There's two that are fairly close, low, and then two that are quite a bit higher. We just did a little project in Andover where we had a bid letting last week, and it was a little water and sewer project. We had only had 3 bidders. Low bid was, I think, $127,000. The next one was $190,000, and the next one was $220,000 or something like that. I mean, it's just depends on how busy people are and how bad they want the job. I'd been talking to a lot of the contractors during the bidding process, and numbers that I got from some of them were quite a bit different than what they were kind of indicating earlier. And then I asked them why afterwards. It's like, well, we just decided it was not going to quite fit our schedule. And if you want to give it to us for that price, then we'll take it.
Okay, that's helpful, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Melvin?
In your opinion, you think we ought to wait on this and then see if it'd go down?
No.
Okay.
I think they're all busy right now, and there's only a handful of them that could do this job. You know, there's a lot of smaller ones out there, but it would take them a year to get the job done. So I don't see any point in trying to delay it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Ben?
Sorry, I'd go ahead here and make a motion to approve the bid for Donger Construction in the amount not to exceed $1,539,382.50 to be paid out of the CIP fund under until general obligation bonds are issued, and authorize the mayor to finalize and execute the contract.
Tom?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And that motion passes 6-0. That brings us to item 6, which is discuss and consider an ordinance amending and authorizing and providing for the construction of a main sewer improvements in the city and providing for the payment of costs thereof. Sean?
Yes, sir. As I indicated in the previous item, back on June 9th this year, council approved an ordinance authorizing and providing for the construction of said Broadway sewer extension. Attached is an ordinance amendment authorizing the increase in cost based on the recent bid tabulation just approved by council. Section 1 amends Section 3, which is the bond authorization, to an amount of $1,761,270 based on the estimated construction, design, inspection, administrative costs, as well as providing for those costs and/or reimbursements to be payable from proceeds of general obligations bonds issued by the city. So a question was asked earlier by a council member, the difference between the two. One of them 1.53 and this one's 1.76. The difference is the engineer design work on the front side. We don't have to worry about right-of-way acquisition on this particular property. We do have a little bit of utility relocates, but it's also the administrative cost and the inspection of the project itself.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Sean? Any discussion? Brandy?
I don't have anything, so I make a motion to approve ordinance 1108-2020 of the city of Park City, Kansas, amending ordinance 1095-2020, which authorized and provided for the construction of main sewer improvements in the city and providing for the payments of the cost thereof.
And Tom?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. Marlo, would you call the roll?
John Lanier.
Aye.
George Glover.
Aye.
Ben Sosetta.
Aye.
Melvin Kerr.
Aye.
Tom Jones.
Aye.
George Capps. Brandy Bailey.
Aye.
Jim Schrader.
And that ordinance passes 6-0. Thank you, Marlo. That brings us to item 7, which is discuss and consider the purchase replacement of police department video cameras and related equipment. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council members, apologize for the false start. To begin with, I would just read from the staff summary and then kind of transfer to a PowerPoint presentation after that to explain this project and what our proposal is. The background is the police department currently has video cameras in 13 of the marked and unmarked vehicles that are used for enforcement or patrol purposes. The police department also has 4 body-worn cameras. All these cameras were manufactured by WatchGuard, which is now owned by Motorola, and their age varies from 1 to over 6 years old. The video from these cameras is uploaded to an on-site storage server here at this building, which was replaced about 18 months ago. The manufacturer's warranty for all the equipment expired. When one of the cameras needed service earlier this summer, we discovered that all of the extended warranties that we had expired in 2019, and the manufacturer did not notify us that they'd expired. So if you recall, I came to the council earlier this year on June 18th and asked for permission to spend $8,725 to bring the warranties current. That was to cover the entire period of that was expired, which was 2019, and then bring it current all the way through 2021. However, we have not spent that money yet, so the funds are still available. And the reason we didn't spend that money was, I think it's fortunate we didn't, but some other information that came to light. So I would kind of transfer to the PowerPoint that's in front of you now. Who is WatchGuard? WatchGuard Video is the company that manufactures all of the video equipment that we have in the police department right now, both the in-car cameras and body cameras. They're one of the leading, if not the leading company in the field of police video equipment. Currently, we only have 4 body cameras. This has been a goal for a long time to get body cameras for all of our officers. Very, very critical, very important issue for us, but we wanted to get the right technology, and we wanted to make sure that we had the IT support to be able to carry out that project properly. So we go to the next slide here. Who is GTAC Video? So as a result of some information that came to light as we talked to our WatchGuard sales representative, we began to think maybe we should look at a different brand of equipment, maybe go a different direction. So one company we looked at is GTAC. GTAC is more known for their rugged computers. In fact, they make all of the patrol vehicle computers that we have, both the laptops that we had previously and the tablets that we have now. So we've had a really good experience with this company for the last number of years. They're more known for rugged military-grade equipment, and they've gotten into the video business here in about the last 4 to 5 years. So what prompted the change, or what prompted for us to look at other things? So police department was in the process of purchasing body cameras, and we contacted our WatchGuard representative, and our thought was that we would simply buy more WatchGuard body cameras and add those to the 4 that we have now. However, we found out that WatchGuard, as they introduced a new body camera, they changed to where you have to have Linux on your server. Now, we just replaced our server about 18 months ago at a cost of over $5,000. That would mean that our storage server would be obsolete. Their body cameras would work with cloud storage, but then we'd have to pay thousands of dollars for cloud storage, and the server that we have would also be obsolete. This means it would cost us a lot more to outfit our officers with body cameras. So that caused us to begin to look elsewhere. We knew that we need to buy, the immediate need that we have is, we have 2 patrol vehicles that we've purchased, and they just arrived, I believe, last week. So we needed 2 new video systems for them, and those come with body cameras. So the 4 body cameras we have now, they all came with an in-car camera. They sync together. So we know that we needed to buy 2 more systems. That would cost us $11,900 roughly to purchase those 2 systems, and we have not bought those yet. That a body camera comes with it, but it doesn't include the price for the licensing or the extended warranty. I'll talk more about that here later, plus the installation and so forth. So the installation might be getting a little bit ahead here, but the installation cost, if we were to get new in-car cameras, from GTAC would be $3,900. That would be 13 patrol cars. That's all the in-car cameras we have now. They would remove the old ones and replace those and do the installation for $3,900 or $300 per vehicle. The quote that we received from WatchGuard, our current supplier, to purchase 17 body cameras, and you may notice a little later there's GTAC quotes us 19. So where do we come up with the number of 17 or 19? So the police department has 17 authorized law enforcement positions, and we have 2 reserve officers. So our goal is to try to get every uniform a body camera. There's a lot of reasons for that. We don't want to share body cameras because the viruses, that's just the most recent thing really is COVID and so forth. The charging ability, there's a long list of reasons why we want to get one for each officer. So why 17 though? The reason for that is we would already be buying 2, the thought was we'd be buying 2 for the vehicles that just came in, so that would equal 19. So they quoted us $16,915 for the body cameras only, and on top of that, you need extra parts and equipment in order to install those. So 7 out of our 13 patrol cars would also need other items added to them to, in order to work with the body cameras. And plus we have to pay an additional $500 per vehicle to have the body cameras installed in the vehicles. So that's another $6,500 total just to have the body cameras installed. This would be with our current vendor. So I'll transition here now to GTAC, the company that we're looking at now. So the cost for 19 body cameras would be $7,315. So you can see there's a vast difference in the price of the hardware, the body cameras themselves. This is just for the body cameras themselves, and there's other parts and equipment, software and so forth that are needed. So the question I'm sure anyone would ask is, why don't we just purchase the body cameras from, maybe from GTAC, and then keep our in-car cameras that we have now? That was my first thought. As we began to look at that, well, first of all, the body cameras, they sync. If you have the same brand of camera, they sync together. So let's say on a car stop, as the officer walks up to the car, you have the view from the in-car camera, and then if the officer's wearing a body camera, you also have that view. And it syncs those 2 views on your computer screen when you watch this later, so you see both views at the same time, which can be very, very useful. If you have different brands, then you have 2 entirely different platforms that you have to maintain. So we would have to pay software licenses, we'd have to have 2 different servers, and so forth. Plus, we would lose the ability to sync these cameras together if we had different brands of in-car versus body cameras. On top of that, our records personnel would have to go in and pull up different videos and put them together, which would take a lot of extra time. For the next slide here. So the cost for WatchGuard software. So as a result of our discussions, WatchGuard, I think they realized that we had an issue. They offered a new body camera, but folks who had just bought a new server from them, like we did, couldn't use that server anymore. So they went to bat for us and got the company to offer us a new server, which was very nice. Unfortunately, we also have to pay $7,740 for the software licensing and the installation on top of that. I'm not really saying it as a criticism, but that's the reality. So even though it would be a new server. So the catch-22 is listed here. So this is the issue that we face. If we were to buy the newest body camera that WatchGuard offers, our current vendor that we have now, it wouldn't work with our server, so we'd have to get a new server. So why not buy the last model, one model back? They still make those, they still offer them, let's put it that way. We could buy those. If we did that, though, we'd automatically be buying something that's not the most current. It's 2, 3, 4 years old, and that would, they put an end of life on this equipment now. So it would shorten the length of time until we reached what they call end of life, where they no longer support it. They don't support the software, they don't support parts and so forth. So we'd be getting into new equipment for us, but old to the market. So we'd already be starting out with things that are going to be obsolete sooner. Back to GTAC, the company that we're looking at now. So the cost for the server software is $9,280. The installation of the software is $6,100. I'll kind of sum this up as we go along. They have to install 4 days for the installation of the software. It's a very extensive project. And part of the reason for that is they have to take all of our existing video and transfer that over. So it's a very extensive project. They would use our current video server that we have now. So we wouldn't have to buy a new server from them. Our server's only a little over a year and a half old, or about a year old. Redaction software. This is another cost that we face with body cameras. So when we take video, particularly when we go into people's homes, even in situations where people who are not involved in an incident are depicted in the video, we should really be redacting these people from those videos before we put them out, and people who want copies of them, we should be redacting them already, and we have not had the capability to do this. But just to explain what that is, so with redaction, as you can see in the picture there, you can, if you have redaction software, you can blank out the faces. The people might be there, but the faces would be blanked out. You can even blank out audio. So, next slide there. So for WatchGuard, the cost for redaction software, just the startup cost is $7,245, one-time cost. And then starting in 2023 and every year thereafter, we would have to pay $785 per year for licensing. For GTAC, the redaction software is included in the price. So we would not have to pay anything for their software, and there's no additional fees in the future. So big difference there right off. We don't have to pay for redaction software if we buy from GTAC. I talked about warranties before for our existing equipment. So I mentioned that we have to, if we want to continue with WatchGuard, we would really need to renew those warranties and spend that $8,725 that we have to bring us current. That includes, that's in-car camera warranties, software warranties, warranties for the new body cameras that we'd have to buy. The total estimated fees for in-car camera warranties and the server software and so forth is $13,715 from WatchGuard. With GTAC, the cost to have extended, or to have warranties, I should say, for 13 in-car cameras, 19 body cameras, would be nothing. It comes with the new equipment. Now, we would have to renew them. We have 6 months from the time of purchase, so whenever we would purchase those, we'd have to pay for the next year warranties. I'm sorry. If you could scroll back for just a second there. So the server software is included, the cost of the warranties. If we would be covered through spring of 2021 by buying the equipment, but we would need to pay for 2022 in the spring of 2021. So we'd have to pay for the warranties in the spring. So just to summarize all this, if we choose to go with WatchGuard and just get body cameras and get 2 new cameras for our 2 new cars, that to me, that initially I thought, well, this would be the cheapest way to go, less expensive, I should say. If we choose WatchGuard, the upfront cost for 17 body cameras and 2 new in-car camera systems, those include 2 body cameras, with redaction software would be $67,555. Excuse me. With GTAC, the total upfront cost for the 19 body cameras, 13 new in-car cameras, and the installation, warranty, and so forth, $78,131. If we choose GTAC, the police department would have an upfront cost of $78,131. However, we could also sell our 13 used WatchGuard in-car cameras and recover the proceeds of that. We've already had interest, I'll just say that, because the word kind of leaked out. So I know we have a number of agencies that might be interested in buying those. So I didn't want to put an amount because you can never really predict. So I didn't put a number in there. But that would be money that would go back to the city to help offset the cost. So I'm presenting 3 options here. The first option would be keep our in-car cameras, our WatchGuard cameras, and just buy body cameras from WatchGuard. By the time we buy the 2 new in-car cameras, the additional equipment, the body cameras themselves, the server, software, licensing, and so forth, the total cost is $67,555. And if we do that, we've got 11 in-car cameras and 4 body cameras that are already from 1 to 6+ years old. Option 2 would be, why can't we just go to GTAC and buy body cameras and keep all of our in-car cameras? So if we were to go with GTAC, buy 19 body cameras, the server software, installation, and so forth, that would cost us $50,359. This is just for the body cameras, essentially. So even though it would be less expensive to buy GTAC body cameras and not buy any new in-car cameras, the cost up front as we go forward, and I'll show this in a minute, the cost that we would pay in future years is going to be much more expensive. So option 3, and this is what I'm proposing to you this evening, is to purchase all new GTAC in-car cameras and body cameras. We have 13 vehicles, so that 13 in-car camera systems would be about $47,000. The installation, $3,900. 19 body cameras for $10,765. That includes the server software, the redaction software included at no cost, and then they charge us $1,000 to come out here on site and do training. Total of $78,131. And again, that doesn't factor in that we could sell the current equipment for whatever we get from that. So again, to summarize, this breaks it down per camera. So the cost of one WatchGuard in-car camera with the body camera costs about $5,900. To buy a GTAC in-car camera with a body camera, it's about an apples to apples comparison, about the best I can give you here. $5,900 for WatchGuard, about $4,188 for GTAC. So to summarize this, if the council chooses to approve the suggestion this evening from staff to purchase from GTAC, even though the upfront cost is $10,576 more, over a 5-year period going forward, the police department will save $51,310 compared to buying the minimum equipment from WatchGuard. This is a spreadsheet, and it's, I know you can't probably read this real well. It's included in your packet there, but it breaks down those costs for GTAC versus WatchGuard. The most important thing I wanted to point out there is the difference in cost between buying just 2 in-car cameras from WatchGuard and some more body cameras versus buying all new equipment from GTAC, $10,576. The next slide here shows the projected costs after the first year. So going forward, every year, if we stay with WatchGuard and compared to buying all new equipment from GTAC, it will cost us more to stay with the older equipment, $9,218 a year. That's if prices don't change and so forth. But it's going to cost us over $9,000 a year and have older equipment. So I'll talk just a moment about funds that are available to pay for this equipment. The 2020 police budget already included $12,100 for body cameras. That was my estimate at the time for what we would need just to buy body cameras to outfit everyone. We also have $12,700 left that we have not spent to buy 2 video systems for the 2 new patrol vehicles that have just arrived. And the council had approved already the purchase of the warranties that were expired for $8,725. So we already have unspent funds of $33,525. These are in different locations. I didn't list the location of those funds, but that's already been allocated. The recommendation, what I would present to you this evening, is to purchase from Trinity Solutions. That's the supplier, the dealer, if you will, for GTAC. 17 GTAC body-worn cameras, 13 in-car video systems, and a storage server with the related items at a cost of $76,631 to be paid from the 2020 police budget. I know that Sean and Dee have talked before about the excess of funds that are in the police budget, just the positions that we have that have not been filled this year is going to create quite a surplus already for this year. Excuse me. Staff also recommends approval for the quote for $1,500 from Superior Emergency Response Vehicles to install 5 of the GTAC in-car systems. The reason for this is we have, just to break this down, we have 5 patrol vehicles that were upfitted by this company. They install our lights, equipments, radios, everything else. They have a warranty. If they install it, they'll fix it if anything goes bad, as long as you don't mess with it. So if we let them install these systems, we pay them $300 a system, they cut us a deal there. So that would keep our warranties intact if we do that. The others would be installed by GTAC for the same price, $300 per vehicle. So that's the recommendation I would like to present to you this evening. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Brandy?
I have several.
Sure.
First of all, your recommendation up here says 17 GTAC cameras, but you've been talking 19, so is it 19 or 17 you're asking for?
I just realized that as I read it, so. It's 19, and if you look at the spreadsheet that was just put up here, it's like, it's in your packet there, but it'd be the one that says WatchGuard versus GTAC. That's on the right-hand side of that spreadsheet. At the top it says WatchGuard versus GTAC, but on the right side it breaks out the cost for GTAC there, and it shows 19.
Okay. And then
So that was a mistake on my part.
okay, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
And then on WatchGuard, can you go back a few slides where it showed the $785?
That would be on the redaction software.
Yes, so that $785 per year for licensing fee, is that $785 total or is it $785 per camera?
That's total. Now, the redaction software, I think they only let us, is it 1 or 2 people can access? Okay, so with WatchGuard, only 1 person could access that at a time.
Okay, but it's included in the quote for GTAX.
For, this is for WatchGuard.
Right, but
So-
in
right.
GTAX, it's included
Yes,
in
right.
there,
There's
so
no
there's not
charge.
that extra fee.
Right.
Okay, and then it's Linux software versus Windows software.
Right.
Is that, I've never heard of Linux software. Is that pretty standard or is that new? Or is it
That's
generic?
it's an operating system, and I kind of have to let the expert talk about that, but and I really appreciate Ted's help on this project. It's extremely helpful. But Linux it's an open source operating system, so as opposed to Windows, you have to pay for it. And I think that's the main reason. It's not unusual for someone to use Linux. That's from what I know.
And then if we go with GTAC, just to make sure I understand correctly, we don't have to buy a new storage server, but if we stayed with WatchGuard, we would have to get a new server because we're not compatible, correct?
That's correct.
Because of the Linux versus Windows.
Right. If we go with GTAC, we could keep the server we have now. It's because they operate off of Windows. So we would just transition. Now we have to pay their costs to that one slide I showed to transfer all the data and the software and so forth. And it's a pretty extensive process, but we wouldn't have to buy a server with GTAC. And then with WatchGuard, they offered to give us the server, but they still have to charge us I think it was $7,000 for
Setup fee, yeah.
with the software.
And then in the summary, you talk about that the age of the things that we have now are from 1 to 6 years old, so we're buying all brand new. What's the expected life of buying this brand new?
Good question. I'm glad you asked that. I meant to mention that. In fact, going forward, so what we've done in the past, generally, we've bought 2 new, however many cars we buy, but usually 2 a year. We buy 2 new video systems, and that, on average, the life of our vehicles have been about 6 years. So about every 6 years, we've been replacing, 5 to 6. So what we need to do going forward is to basically set that money aside so that in 5 years, we have the money available to purchase all new equipment again, because right now it's staggered, the age. If we buy all new all at once, instead of just buying new equipment every year, we set that money aside, and it's going to be less money that we set aside, like I showed earlier.
And then I guess the final thing I have is, so when we were originally quoting this, we were looking at 17 cameras versus the 19, and you explained that the 2 extra is because we have the reserved staff and we don't want to share the cameras because of COVID, which then brings me to the question, since that's kind of a COVID related, is that something that we could add the cost of those 2 extra cameras into our COVID stuff that we're submitting to the county?
One thing about the 17...
That's almost then another $9,000.
Sorry, one thing about the 19 versus 17, just to clarify that, the difference was if we buy the 2 new in-car systems from WatchGuard for our vehicles that we have now, those come with body cameras. So we would have 2 there already, and then we would only have to buy 17 more in addition to that. So we still have 19 in that case.
Okay. But I mean, you had brought up the point, though, that, not having to share just because of COVID, which, I mean, that makes sense.
Right.
So then it just made me start thinking about, well, could we get reimbursed for that from the county? Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Anybody else? Tom?
I have one. Are you gonna sell these existing if we buy new through an auction, or are you gonna just, is there a market value for them?
Well, of course, it has to be approved by city administrator for selling equipment. But, my original thought was we'd sell them by Purple Wave.
Okay.
But we never know what we're going to get with Purple Wave.
Correct.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Our experience with electronic equipment before has not been very good, I'll just say that. They tend to go like really, really low. And I think that we would probably greatly exceed that by just setting a price. And then we've already, like I mentioned before, had some feelers put out to us, and the prices that we've talked about, they are, I think we would be hard-pressed to get that much money out of Purple Wave, even close.
Well, I just didn't know how you were doing it, if you were gonna set a price and try to get it, or. if
That'd be
you
my
had all-
preference. Again, that'd be, Sean would have to approve that, and we haven't really had that discussion yet, but.
Ben?
Can you, sorry, could you hit that next slide after this one here for continuing cost? There, I was looking through that there. So moving forward, so the cost with the GTAC ones are included this year for the warranties up until next year when we had to buy them. And so they're, with the GTAC, they're $193.16 per year for the warranties moving forward, right? And So just the general overall cost savings is quite a bit more significant with the GTEC moving forward. Comparability between the two as far as value,
You know, I'd say they're both top shelf. I mean, we've been very impressed with GTAC. You know, we had a few issues in the beginning, mainly because they're new to us, and it was a matter of like configuration, because they're you know, many settings. You can change the resolution and things like that. But we had the same kinds of issues with WatchGuard in the beginning. Not equipment issues, but it was really just adjusting to the settings. So very comparable. In some ways, I would say GTAC's a little bit more progressive in the way their redaction software is far and away better. Not even close, in my opinion.
I would say just based on the fact this is a safety, not just to the citizens, but it's a safety for our officers as they're out there in the environment and the climate that we're in right now, giving them the cover, really, I guess. Cover might not be the best word to use, but giving them the security of knowing that what's taking place is being recorded and done accurately and with top quality. So I would make a motion to approve the proposal from Trinity Innovative Solutions in the amount of $76,631 to supply 19 GTEC body-worn cameras, 13 GTEC in-car video systems, a storage server and related items, and the quote from Superior Emergency Response Vehicles in the amount of $1,500 to install 5 GTEC in-car systems and to remove the existing video equipment to be paid out of the 2020 Police Department budget.
Tom?
I'll second that.
John?
I may have missed it in your spreadsheet stuff, Chief. The warranty per year after the first year with GTAC is how much?
So it's going to be in the annual cost after the first year. There's a spreadsheet on that, and I'm not good at this particular one. I'm not good by memory. So if you look, there's various costs there. So you've got the car camera warranty, so it's $339 per unit for the in-car camera. Body cameras are $380 per unit. And you can kind of compare that if you look across at the per unit cost. I mean, you can see that WatchGuard for an in-car camera, it's $575 per unit for WatchGuard versus $339 for GTAC. And if you go to body cameras, $995 for WatchGuard, $380 per unit so like 1/3 almost from GTAC. And I guess one thing that I was really impressed with is just the cost of the body camera itself. So if you lose a body camera with WatchGuard, you're talking $1,000. Let's say it fell off and you lost it. If we lose, if that happened with a WatchGuard, we're talking, I believe it's $380. It's like, again, like 1/3. And the equipment is good. It's not just a matter of how they price things. It's not a reflection of the quality.
I guess I'm kind of wondering, I always fret on warranties, and we're paying $380 per unit. Let's just go with the body camera, okay? With the GTAC. We're paying $380 a unit when the whole thing is $1,500. I just wonder, over a period of 5 years, we're paying $1,500 in warranty. If it goes that long, I just wonder, let's try to figure out the cost benefit of that, of what, are we really getting the value on that, of what it is, and then the same thing I could see, you see the comparison on the $380 is a $1,500 price tag on the full unit, where the other one is $330 and it's $4,500. I feel like the value of that's much better, but I feel like I trust your guys' judgment and what you need. I mean, obviously a body cam's going to take a lot more beating out in the public and rain and everything, all the elements that they experience. But how many years will they let you purchase that warranty?
Yeah, with GTAC it's unlimited. And with WatchGuard, I think they cut us off at 7 years. Is that correct? So, and the price goes up every year with WatchGuard too. So when you reach 7 years, and that's it. And with GTAC, there's no limit, and the price doesn't go up.
Is there a lot of other departments in the area that use GTAC also?
So far in Kansas, there aren't any. If you look at the state of Texas, elsewhere around the country, there's a lot. Amarillo, Texas is one that 100% GTAC, and they've been using them now for how long? 3 years. Ted called down and talked to the supervisor down there that was in charge of their video program. They did a trial, and then they went 100% GTAC for all their in-car and body cameras, and said they've had a very, very good success with them.
Okay. And the last thing I guess I would just mention, my preference, I feel like the piecemealing thing where we do 2 a year or whatever, though value-wise of us not having a big expense up front, I guess I would like to see us get into a program where we're just putting the money away for 2 a year or whatever. That way, I know they say they last a lot longer than a lot of times what they do when they're selling to you anyway, but to me, a replacement program where you're doing every 4 to 5 years when it comes to technology like this, because then there's still worth something to sell, which is why I was asking if there's other departments that are using these right now that are marketable when they do sell them at, let's just say, 4 years. But I'm supportive of the GTAC. I think I don't know much about it, but from what you've given a good presentation on it, I think it's worth the value that we're getting here. So, thank you.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 6-0. Thanks, Chief. That brings us to item 8, which is discuss and consider an ordinance establishing the hours of city parks are open and declaring it a misdemeanor for persons to be in city parks outside of those hours. Doug?
Mayor and council, this is an ordinance that does two things. It's a cleanup. There is an old city ordinance from back in 1982 which established at that point a uniform hours of operation for the city parks of 6 a.m. to 12 midnight, and it made it a violation or a misdemeanor for somebody to be in the park between those closed hours of midnight and 6 a.m. This was never codified, so that's the first thing was discovered by the police department that we want to do, is to make this part of our municipal code. And then there are two other provisions that do exist in the municipal code, sections 12.116 and 12.117. 12.116 sets slightly different hours for Jardine Park. Those hours of the park being open are from 6 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. And then 12-117 prohibits fishing in Haberger Park, Chisholm Point Lake, between the hours of midnight and 5 a.m. What this ordinance does is it establishes a uniform hours of operation for our city parks from 6 a.m. In the morning till midnight, but it does retain those exceptions for the two little differences for Mobile Park and Chisholm Point Lake. It also provides it speaks more positively and talks about when the parks are open, and then says if you're there when they're not open, that's a misdemeanor and a violation. The original ordinance really talked about when you couldn't be in the park. I think just a cleaner way for the public to read it, to say when you can be in the park, and then when the park's closed, if you're there, it's a misdemeanor violation. And then there is a catch-all at the end, which does allow for exceptions if the police department approves something in writing where persons could be in the park during those closed hours of 6 a.m. And midnight.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? No? Anybody got any suggestions? Brandy?
I move to approve ordinance 1109-2020, an ordinance amending section 12-113 of the municipal code of the city of Park City, Kansas, establishing hours when public use of city parks is permitted, declaring it unlawful to be present in the city parks outside of such established hours, and repealing the original of said section 12-113.
George?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Not seeing any discussion. Marla, would you call the roll?
John Lanier.
Aye.
George Glover.
Aye.
Ben Sosetta.
Aye.
Melvin Kerr.
Aye.
Tom Jones.
Aye.
George Capps. Brandy Bailey.
Aye.
Jim Schrader.
And that ordinance passes 6-0. That brings us to governing body reports. Sean, you just want to give us a brief reminder about tomorrow's events?
Yes, sir. Tomorrow is our downtown visioning workshop here in council chambers. For council, we're going to start off the morning between 9 a.m. and 11 p.m., or 11 a.m., I should say. That'd be a long day. Between 9 and 11 a.m. To where we'll get council's goals and visions for the downtown area. And then from 11:30 to 1, we have about 20 regional experts, brokers, developers, agents, engineers, architects that'll be coming here to provide their inputs as far as what's possible, probable, what we can expect. And then the design session is going to go on in the afternoon, and council and staff are more than welcome to come back in the afternoon about 4 o'clock to hear a wrap up and see what ideas were came up with. So,
All right, thank you,
looking
Sean.
forward to it.
So we'll move on to remarks. Brandy?
So this last Thursday, I had two events that I was going to attend. I was going to attend one down in Arc City, or I was going to attend one here in local. And my daughter happened to get sick, so I decided to stay local, which I'm glad I did, because then I was able to hear this. So we often hear complaints about what's wrong with our city, what we could do better, maybe complaining about us not doing what the citizens feel like we should do. But I wanted to share something that was positive brought up to me at this event I was at. I was at the end of the event, and I was standing in a circle talking to several individuals, and another Park City resident happened to be in the middle of that circle. And they had said that this council and mayor that we have right now in Park City are top-notch, and they do an outstanding job, and this is probably one of the best councils they've ever seen this city have. So on that, I just wanted to share some positive feedback. Like I said, we often hear the negative side of things. We don't hear very many compliments. And so I just also want to say that, you know, I'm thankful to be a part of this council and to be able to be on this board with each and every one of you. And I appreciate what each and every one of you bring to this. I know sometimes we disagree, don't get along, but we are a great group, I feel like, and we do work well together. So thank you.
Thanks. Tom?
Don't have anything tonight?
Melvin?
I'm good.
Ben?
Sure, one thing coming up here, beginning the 15th, Sedgwick County is supplying bulky waste coupons that you can go to sedgwickcounty.org and request one. You have to be a Sedgwick County resident, but you can take up to 1,000 pounds of bulky waste. So go to sedgwickcounty.org and you can participate in it. The times to use the coupon are from October 15th to December 15th, and my understanding is that you cannot ask for your coupon until October 15th. So go to sedgwickcounty.org and you can participate in that there. And then also, as part of our consent agenda, just a reminder, we'll be hosting election hours here, or election times here coming up. Early voting starts in person next week, Monday, so make sure to get out and do your civic duty over the next 3 weeks.
Okay. George?
Yeah, in lieu of what Brandy's saying, I've received positive reports as well, emails from folks who like Park City, they like the quietness of it, they like being away from the big city, and just being able to access different areas, either in this state or in other areas. So I think it's what you make it. I've lived here 10 years, and like I said, for me, it's about community, it's about serving others, and that's what I try to do, or try to tell others to do. Be part of what's going on in Park City. Be part of the events, be part of the actions that are being taken place here. Come to the open forums and take part of that. That gives you a voice in what's going on here in Park City. That being said, our annual Fall Fest is coming up on October 24th at Hat McLean Park. In lieu of everything that's going on with COVID-19, this is a way for folks to kind of get out and maybe bring back some form of normalcy in their lives. That's from 2 to 7. There'll be a lot of activities going on, and we will be practicing in lieu of COVID-19, social distance practicing and other things as well. So again, it's a part of the community and getting out. So we